Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Look, Wrestling 101, classes in session. Pay attention to the teachings, that's from Andrew and Derek. I mean, these guys making a killing with no competition. Dynamic duo better than the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. Everybody make some noise, mess with them, you get destroyed. They cannot be beat, take a seat. Watch them do their thing on the MIC. Face defeat, they cannot be seen like JC. Oh my goodness, it's a killing spree.
Capo Grande, Tony Chini, and you're listening to Wrestling IQ 101.
Hey everyone, this is Andrew from Wrestling IQ 101. When I'm not hosting our podcast, I'm usually at collarandelbowbrand.com. That's right, Collar and Elbow is the only place that combines wrestling with street attire. And I know what you're thinking, I want to look fashionable too, and I also want to save 10%. So head over to collarandelbowbrand.com and use the promo code WIQ101 and look fashionable and save some money. And now, on with the show. Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Wrestling IQ 101. I'm Andrew, and you can follow Wrestling IQ 101 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wrestling IQ 101. And today, our house has been invaded by Anthony Gangone, man. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well, man. You know, it's kind of crazy. I just alluded to you invading our house, but you invaded CCW. How was that?
That was over a year and a half ago at this point, and the idea was to make a statement. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and that's what happens when you go into something in a big group. But I think for myself, I made my own statement pretty clear.
Yeah, you did. It was pretty crazy, man. So, I'm glad you're joining us here on Wrestling IQ 101. So, Anthony, there's a lot to talk about. I figure we're going to talk about some of your classic matches, a little bit about who you are. I was watching some stuff that you were doing earlier, and one of the craziest things I've ever seen was that you were involved with was at the Culture Clash 19, you have a moment with all the Smileys and you guys are just beating them up, and that whole thing was just like really awesome, but yet still a little creepy, right?
Earlier in the night, Smiley got put into a casket, and I guess he was reborn, and it was kind of like a clown car coming out of a casket, and there was a lot to deal with, and I guess for at least one show, Smiley was a different version of himself. So. Yeah,
it was pretty cool to see a reborn Smiley. But you guys held your own for a few minutes until he came back. I'm thinking about all the crazy moments you've had, and you've had a lot over the last couple of years. I mean, you've been wrestling now for what, almost 9 years?
Yeah, I had my first match in March or April 2012, and so I've been wrestling ever since.
Yeah, you ever think back about how far you've made it? Because from the first match till now, I mean, you can see this evolution of just people you've wrestled. I mean, there's a list of people that are some dream matches that people wish they could have today, like Cody or Joe Gacy.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting ride. Probably far more interesting what was going on backstage than what was going on screen. But I am proud of the fact that so many promotions were confident enough in my abilities to put me in there with all these great talent names, TV stars, international stars, and it wasn't just one promotion. It was multiple, and I guess that's something to be very proud of on my end, that they felt so strongly about my abilities to go in there with these guys and have most of the time have a pretty cool match.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw you, I was at a promotion out here in Jersey, and the crowd just kept saying, "Who are you? Who are you?" and at the end of the match, they might have not known how to pronounce your name, your last name, but they definitely know who you were at the end of that match because it was so impressive, and it's amazing to see, that you're getting these big names and these opportunities still.
Yeah, I mean, in wrestling, it's not always about work ethic and all that, but I think in my case, I just all I have done throughout my career is just tried my best, and if the promoter, who always has the final say, felt that he can put me in there with a guy like Cody or Joe Gacy or Gangrel, it meant a lot to me, and it kind of reinforces, at least mentally, for myself that maybe I'm pretty decent at some things in wrestling.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you do a lot of these crazy matches, and you do a lot of those no rope matches.
Mm-hmm.
What's your mindset going into some of these hardcore matches or these no rope matches, or these sometimes these like death matches? I feel like.
Yeah, well, as far as the no rope matches, they were always a challenge to top the next one, but each one was different in their own way, and as in a way, as a wrestler, I'm an artist. So the challenge kind of drew me to do it, even though the third one I did not want to do at all. And also there was a lot of interesting behind-the-scenes stuff to some of my opponents that maybe drove those matches to be what they were for that audience and anyone that checked it out. But I think, most people, especially within the arena, always, hold those matches dear. I still hear about them, and that's cool. I wish more people got to see it. Not so much, to, for lack of a better term, put myself over, but more that, the lengths we went to put our bodies on the line. Also, I did a death match with Matt Tremont, which, he just retired, and that's a big blow to indie wrestling in so many ways, and I respect Matt tremendously, and I can't say that about everybody, but he's the perfect guy to introduce me to barbed wire, which hurts like hell, and I'm sure I have some scars that'll last a lifetime on my body.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Matt Tremont, because that was something I wanted to talk to you about, because he is such a polarizing figure, because he can do it all. He can wrestle. A lot of people don't know that about him, or they don't see that. They just see the deathmatch side of him. But yeah, he can actually wrestle, and he knows how to use these weapons. So, I mean, looking across the ring from him and knowing that he was such a big part of CCW, and you're wrestling in his backyard, was it a little nerve-wracking?
Yeah, it was. And, it was cool to be in the ring and hear his music play. And, even though Matt is, roughly around my age, he kind of has, for lack of a better term, an Undertaker kind of aura to him, and all the fans love him, and people in the back love him because he's just a very quality human being, and his in-ring work and his promo ability especially is just great, and I respect Matt so much, and I was sad to see that he's gone away as far as being a wrestler himself. But we know how wrestling retirements are. I'm not saying Matt will be that way.
Yeah.
But it was definitely sad to see that. But yeah, I love Matt Tremont, his work. I'm a fan of his work, and it was awesome to be in there, especially promo-wise with him, because I felt like I kind of held my own. And even though CZW was kind of on a downturn there, I feel at the very least, especially for the audience, that at least the promos between us were pretty quality, and it was nice because I kind of felt my first CZW run was a complete failure for various reasons, and then for that live audience to kind of chat, see us in the cage of death, was kind of cool. We did not do that match, obviously, but it was cool to hear because it was like, oh, these fans really hated me so many years ago, and now they're willing to watch me die at Matt Tremont's hands. So that was kind of cool and maybe a bit rewarding. But yeah, Matt's great, and we'll see what the road brings as far as his career, his school, his students, and all that.
Yeah, at least he's not walking away completely because you alluded to it. He has the school and stuff like that. So, and it's kind of cool because your career takes so many different turns. Something that we both have in common that we both were at JP, and you were in the Best of the Light heavyweights. That was my first time doing interviews at JPW. But just knowing you were going to be you're an elite talent on your own, and you throw in like Homicide, Brandon Watts, Danny DeMonto, Matt McIntosh, Anthony Bennett, Warhorse. This is just a crazy. This is probably one of the best collections of the Best of the Light heavyweights.
Yeah, I remember that day, and it was an honor to be asked that. And I guess technically I've been in two of them because I did do it for Synergy last year as well, which had Homicide, Brandon Kirk, Ace Austin, Jordan Oliver. I'm sure I'm missing someone.
And Arcadia.
Yeah, that was Arcadia. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You'd be mad that I forgot him. And I remember our interview, which we were in the back room, mostly away from most people, but I think Lufisto was getting ready for a match. So, it was definitely an honor because JP was a big deal so many years ago, and to be part of even small part of their kind of reboot, at least for a few shows for that year, 2 years, whatever it was. It was nice.
Yeah, a lot of people, I remember growing up, that was the place to be, and a lot of people would kill to get on those JP shows. So it's pretty cool that you got that little stamp saying you've been there. But that's not the only place you've been. You alluded to CCW. Of course, you were at the House of Gangone, HOG. Also, Ace, TCW, IWA, Capital, Synergy, BCW, UWA Elite, ICW. You're making your notch around the whole scene here, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, there could always be more places. Kind of my career has kind of been more on the East Coast area, and I've done Limitless. I was part of Beyond's roster for a year. I've done MCW for the Shamrock Cup and a few other dates. I went to San Diego for B-Boys promotion, Ground Zero. So yeah, there's definitely more work to do and more places that I should be, or maybe I shouldn't say should be, but I would like to try to be. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully my horizons expand a bit more than just mostly the East Coast.
Yeah. It was my first show back in August at BCW. And, of course, you had Ruthless Lala that night in a Doors match. You have a lot of intergender matches in the past. I know you wrestled, like, Nikki Adams. And, do you feel like those matches kind of suit you better? Those hardcore matches like that?
Do they suit me better? I don't think so. But the thing is that every match I take it as a challenge.
Okay.
And if in Lala's case it was a Doors match, so I tried to adapt to that, and I think that's maybe my best quality as a performer is that I try to adapt to my environment. So if you want to wrestle, I'm able to wrestle. If you want to brawl, I'm able to brawl. And I've done a few intergender matches. They all seem to get a pretty big following for whatever reason, but I would say that most bad, especially in intergender wrestling, or it's not just they're not just female wrestlers, they're just wrestlers, and they're great performers, and Nikki Adams is great, and Ruthless Lala is tough as hell, especially since
wishing her well too, because we'd like to see her get back in the ring very soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that was an incredible match.
She has a GoFundMe, by the way. She has a lot of medical bills, and she's been going through a tough time. So if you can, just search that up. And I think it's under like Tanya Harris. So.
Yeah. I think there's links on her Instagram and Facebook, Twitter. So definitely, check that out. And every little bit helps. And she's a fantastic lady. So, definitely hearts go out to her and her family in this time.
Absolutely.
It's always amazing to me when partners are one moment they're teaming up together or they're fighting each other. The crusade for change is something that I've always loved. Whether you're facing TJ Marconi or Darius Carter, you guys always seem to bring out the best in each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, sibling rivalry, if you would say, and, they seem to always show up on the match card against me in some way, but I think there's a big, trying to prove that we're on each other's level and things like that, and, TJ is just came back to IWA and wants the title back. So, it just seems like he's a gnat that just will not go away. He's always a shadow behind me. And then Darius, anytime me and Darius get in the ring, we just beat the hell out of each other and see who's the better man that night.
Yeah. Have you guys ever talked about, putting the band back together or is it something that this is something that we did and we're going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely against it, but I'm not really. What we had in Beyond for roughly a year was very special. It was just the right ingredients, and that included the Minutemen with Devin Blaze and Tommy Trainwreck. And I don't really think it can be recreated. I mean, it's kind of been recreated in some form in multiple ways, and it was kind of just watered down. I mean, I'm not against teaming with them here or there, but I'm not really. I'd rather move forward than backwards. That was a part of my life at one point. Now it's not. But, maybe for nostalgia purposes, for certain fans, maybe you'll see a six-man tag or something someday.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, I'm going to keep my eye up for that because I can't wait to see what you guys do. Another thing I was watching, you had Gabby Gilbert. She went into your bags. She has this thing. And you had two of them. Because you gotta have all the bag. You have to have a bag for all that gold that you carry. What's an essential thing that you keep in the bag to this day?
I mean, really, it's not. I don't really have anything in particular. Honestly, I'm surprised that I even have my ring gear in there half the time. That I didn't forget it at home or something. So that's. I really don't have anything. I'm not really a superstitious person, so I don't have like my first wrestling boots or anything like that in there, or like maybe a T-shirt I wore to the ring for one of my big matches. So I'm not really a superstition person. But I guess I have a lot of braces in there, I guess, for various injuries, and I guess some of them stick around in my bag.
Well, that's good to be prepared because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you're taking on some big people and some tough cookies, and I don't envy you one bit at all because it's amazing what you do, and I can't do that. So I'll stick here. Right.
I mean, well, I can't do what you do, so which is provide an entertaining podcast. So.
Yeah, and it's really awesome that I want to talk about this for a second because it's pretty amazing that this happened. The cash-in that you had, and it was Brian Cage and EC3, and you come in and you cash in and you leave. I mean, that is such an amazing moment in all of wrestling, in my opinion, because it was so surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of was. I mean, honestly, at that point, I did not want to wrestle at House of Glory anymore. And, we had the loser goes away match or whatever, and I know Brian spoke to me about doing that, but I wasn't really fully invested until really towards at the very end, as far as like maybe I don't know, there was a lot going on backstage there at the time, and I wasn't sure completely if I should have stayed or not. And I guess maybe in hindsight, I probably should have left there and just moved on with my career. But but as far as the title situation, it was cool, especially for the fans. It was definitely surprising because in wrestling there's always a loophole, and I had a contract that I won some Rumble or something. So, and I cashed in on two guys that just came out of nowhere, and yeah, it was definitely cool for those House of Glory fans that night.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And you were pretty lucky. You got a parking spot right in front of the building in New York. So
yeah. I mean, you're completely right about that.
I don't know how you did that. That's a win in itself.
Yeah, a friend of mine helped me out that night, and I think we went to Sonic afterwards and celebrated with some slushes and milkshakes.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's all right. So you just talked about food. When you're traveling, what are some of the go-to places that you need to stop at and get some food, or is there any?
Well, as an indie wrestler, you try to save as much money as you can. So usually I'll go to like Wendys and get something there. They usually have a pretty good multitude of things that I enjoy.
Okay.
At least to hold me over until I get home. But yeah, I mean, I would say Wendys as far as fast food. I can't really think of any chain restaurants that I've really gone to that I would recommend, or really, I guess Denny's.
Okay.
I'm a big Denny's guy. So.
A lot of people will say Wawa. They can't live without Wawa or Sheetz.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a Sheetz person because their venue, as far as like fast food, to me is better and worse for you, but tastes better. But yeah, I would say that I pick Wawa and Sheetz over a Quick Check. So I guess that's my answer.
That's cool. Yeah, and you can't go wrong with Wendy's. I mean, they always have some good stuff too. The 4 for $5 is a pretty good deal.
Yeah, and they're it seems, I probably should do more research on this, but at least their nuggets do look more real. So. Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, and they're moist and then the inside. So yeah, so I saw that you like horror movies. Are there other type of movies that you enjoy as well, and other types of music that you like?
Yeah, I'm not really much of a music person.
Okay.
I guess by the time I realized that everyone around me really liked music and knew everyone's songs on every album, I realized it was kind of too daunting of a task to try to backtrack and find all these things. So I kind of just stood away from music, but movies have always been in my life. It was a big thing in my household growing up. I mean, Turner Classic Movies was always on, and I was always watch with whomever, and Turner Classic Movies was always on. But I'm a big comedy and horror guy.
Okay.
I like to escape life, and like to me, like horror movies are a very, very drastic aspect of life. I don't really particularly care for like movies that are based in real life, maybe like serial killers or home invasions, stuff like that, just because those are things that could happen. Things like Freddy Krueger, that is scary. More than likely not going to happen to you. And then also comedies, there's so much going on in the world that's very negative, whether certain people around you, especially in wrestling, or bills, or
sure.
The economy, the diseases, various things, especially in 2020. That a good laugh is always great for the heart.
Yeah. So what kind of comedy do you like? Do you like Will Ferrell? Do you like Adam Sandler? Do you like Borat? Superbad? Like, are there some movies that you just have to people that you have to watch, or any comedy?
Yeah, I mean, as far as comedies go, the first ones that pop up into my head are like John Hughes movies, or Christmas-related films, so like Christmas Vacation, Elf, those kind of comedies, or even like Abbott Costello films. I'm a big fan of Lauren Hardy, some of Vincent Price stuff. So, and then I think the movies I tend to enjoy the most are the ones that are kind of a blend of everything. So they have a little bit of horror, they have some comedy, they have, action, this and that. So I guess, that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, you just alluded to some Christmas movies. You're a big Christmas guy, right?
I am, yes. Very, very big on Christmas.
So, like almost a bigger fan than Mick Foley, or slightly like in the middle?
I did watch Mick Foley's Christmas documentary, so
yeah.
No, I'm probably as big of a fan as Foley. There tends to be some Christmas music playing all year round sometimes that sneaks into my car speakers.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, once October ends, my tree and my decorations are up already.
Oh, nice. So, what goes on your Christmas tree? Do you go to Hallmark and get the ornaments, or do you scour the world looking for the perfect ones?
I try to buy at least one new ornament every year. And I don't have a particular place I'd necessarily go to. It's just something, if I see it, whether at Target or Disney Store or something like that, I try to add on. I do put on my Christmas tree that's a Halloween tree during October, which has mostly, Nightmare Before Christmas and, Halloween-based stuff. But for Christmas, I know this year I picked up a Lilo and Stitch ornament that plays the theme song for that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. I couldn't help but notice last year, you elevated your gear, which is always amazing, and we can get back to that in a second. But you last year you put the Krampus touch on it, right?
Yeah, I've been doing it. I think it was like past 2 years.
Yeah.
And, it was funny because the first time I did it, most people in the crowd didn't know who I guess was what the inspiration was.
Mm-hmm.
But I as a wrestling villain, I think the perfect touch of taking my real life and what I enjoy in real life and putting it with wrestling, I think Krampus Gangone is the perfect aspect of that.
Yeah, and it works for you, and it is a pretty scary, daunting task knowing that you're going to wrestle Krampus and Anthony Gangone. I mean, so it's pretty daunting for your opponent. It's a pretty good psychological mind game there. So
yeah, that's a great point, and they better watch out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't want to make the naughty listen face you in the ring. It's pretty crazy. You've been able to do so many different things, and a match that I just recently watched too, in preparing for this interview, was you teamed up with Monster Mac against Jay George and Warlord, and that match has the perfect amount of blend in there. I mean, you and Jay George are young and very athletic wrestlers, and of course, you have the legend Monster Mac, who's now the TCW champion and probably on top of his game right now, and then the legend Warlord, Lord, and it's just a pretty impressive matchup, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, those are one of those matches that you're like, after the match and you go home or on the car ride home, you're like, wow, did I just wrestle Warlord? Even though I guess I'm relatively young and Warlord's, for lack of a better term, heyday was before my time. But as a kid, I always had the VHSs of past WrestleManias and pay-per-views, so it was cool to be in that match. And he's still a giant of a man, still muscle bound, and he gave me some clubs to the back. But was also very cool to be in the ring with, as a team with Steve Mack, because he's, kind of a legend, especially on the independent circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of known to be a tag team specialist, so it's kind of cool to be part of that. And then Jay George is just wacky and unpredictable, and you never know which version you're going to get. You don't know if he's going to wrestle you or try to out-sing you. So
yeah, he's a character, and he always brings out the best performances out of people he wrestles, and that match was pretty awesome, I have to admit. Talking about different characters, somebody who you got to team up with was Mark Quinn, and it was only for one night only, and some people would be like, that combination sounds really weird on paper, but it works.
Yeah, I mean, we were a team together for 2-3 years,
mm-hmm.
and yes, you're right, it shouldn't really make sense, but somehow it worked. And Quinn is one of my best friends, better friends, whatever you want to say,
mm-hmm.
within the industry. And I guess we just had that chemistry, and it doesn't, you don't always have to look the same or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just for that audience especially, which I remember, which is fine, this always happens in wrestling, but I remember that someone was like, oh, this team won't work, and then we became one of the most, if not the most popular team in excellence for that time being. And it was awesome that we got to do it one last time before he went on to be a big television star on AEW.
Yeah, it is crazy because you guys are so opposite. He's like jumping around and partying, and you're coming out and you're stern and mean, and I love it. I love watching you guys get together and do your thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, but sometimes opposites attract.
Yeah.
And whatever. At the end of the day, me and Quinn are competitors, and I guess that's what drew us together. And we didn't lose any matches as a team until our very last one. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah, I want to recap some of these opponents that you've had for people who are listening. You faced Vinny Pacifico, Sebastian Cage, Jake Chambers, Mike Law, MJF, TJP, and MJF, Leo Rush. I mean, you've been in there with countless people. Do you have a favorite opponent? Do you have a favorite match?
I would say my favorite opponent is probably Mark Quinn.
Okay.
Because besides being in there with him and trying to beat him up, but he's just a lot of fun to be in there with, and as far as favorite matches,
mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's hard to say, and it always depends on the day, and maybe sometimes some of my favorite matches aren't necessarily ones that people would rate 5 stars, but
mm-hmm.
I thought told a good story, and or they didn't give us really much to do, much material to do well with, and we made it work out really well. And sometimes those are some of my favorite matches, but I can't really say or pick one offhand. Sure,
yeah, it's like a favorite child, right? You can't do it. If you have 2 kids, you just love them both equally. So, yeah, I don't blame you. When you think about where you want to go and where you want to be in wrestling, does it getting signed by a major company, or do you just enjoy doing, where you are?
No, I mean, I struggle with this because I think that I don't have the same goals as other people. Like, all I really wanted was to have the best matches possible, which I feel nowadays I'm having the best matches I am, and I'm becoming more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to, at least at some point, see if I could be on TV in some capacity, and that's really my goals or aspirations. But I'm not, wrestling. I love wrestling, but it's not, the only identity I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that's fine because, for certain people, they eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was me for a long time, but I do have other aspects of my life that I enjoy, and I feel like that almost helps me, at least for me, it helps me be a better wrestler, that I only focus on it when I need to, and then when I do focus on it, that I'm able to produce something pretty decent or good. So that's kind of what works for me, and I always look at, Daniel Bryan scored the least, being the least ambitious WWE wrestler, and look at his career, and he's one of the best wrestlers. So, what works for me doesn't work for some people, and vice versa. But for me, it's, I like to look at wrestling in a certain way, and it just helps me.
Yeah, it's crazy that you mentioned Daniel Bryan, because he is amazing. Because, you said somebody who's really not ambitious about being a WWE superstar, but he is an artist as well. And, is that somebody who you pattern your style around? I mean, who do you look for to pattern your in-ring style?
For a long time, I kind of picked and choose from various Ring of Honor wrestlers. When I was a teen, I used to watch Ring of Honor, and it was such a great time as being a fan, to be a fan of Ring of Honor at that time, with Nigel McGuinness and Austin Aries, Chris Hero, just a whole bunch of guys. But, Daniel Bryan was one of them as well. Nowadays, I kind of do my own thing. I'm sure there's semblances of certain wrestlers in there that I've enjoyed, but nowadays I kind of get my inspiration from things that are not wrestling related, and kind of makes me stand out a bit more, because I'm not necessarily a copy of this wrestler, or, this wrestler reminds me of this guy, and I think that just makes me a better performer.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently just saw you at TCW, and, being out there in that night, how was that getting out there? I know it was a little cold, but...
it was extremely cold.
Yes, it was.
With the current situation that's going on, as far as what's going on in our country with COVID and stuff, people try to drag as long as they could outdoor shows, and now it's like, all right, now it's getting too cold, and it's too cold for the fans, too cold for the wrestlers, and but it was, I guess, I don't know what's going to happen, and until a vaccine or whatever becomes available for most people. But it could be my last match for a long time. I don't know, because I am scheduled for Synergy, and as of right now, it is looking like everything's going to plan. But they're putting new restrictions on in certain places, so you never know. And as CCW did a lot. Especially during the pandemic, and all their shows were outdoors, and that was very good because it was more safe for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So, it's getting a bit too cold out there to just throw a ring out in the parking lot or a park somewhere and wrestle.
Yeah, it must have been kind of nice, because if it was your last match, some people haven't even wrestled once. You've been able to maintain a couple matches in the middle of this thing. Has that been challenging for you, knowing that maybe there's some crowd limits or something like that?
No, because for me, one, I've been very lucky. I pretty much have wrestled once a week to two, 3 times a week, whatever it was, a weekend, I should say. Since they started allowing outdoor events, and most of my shows have been outdoor or taping, so I have been able to work pretty regularly since, let's say, July. I've been very lucky for that. That being said, whether there's one person, no one there, it doesn't matter. Once I'm in that ring, I try to give it my best I can, because all these shows are being recorded, and some of them are put on YouTube or online or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to give people the best version of me I can from that day, and realize that, you know, I still do it for the art, I still do it for the passion, I still do it to have a great match and show my worth through my work. And yeah, that's pretty much, you know, whether it's 1,000 people or one person or no people, I still try my best in that.
Yeah, you could definitely see that, and that's one of the reasons why I always enjoy watching you. At the end of the day, when you hang it up, you know, I don't know if you thought about this, but do you want to give back and do some trainings, or like you said before, you alluded, there's other passions in your life that you know, that can keep you busy too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what I would do. I mean, the thing is that for me, I love wrestling. I love being in the ring. I love the performance, but I don't love everything else about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for me, I don't, as of right now, and maybe my answers will change, I think once I'm done,
Mm-hmm.
I'm done, and pretty much no one will ever hear from me again. So that's kind of my mindset nowadays. I'm going to give everything I can while I'm there, but, you know, eventually everything ends in life, and that includes wrestling. And, you know, whether my body can't take it or what, even can't get a job, whatever it is, at some point it will end. And I have to be prepared for that, because, you know, wrestling takes a lot out of you mentally. And I feel like a lot of people, this is all they have, which is fine. But at some point, it would suck to kind of have to reevaluate your life towards the middle of your life and start a new career or whatever. So we'll see what time brings. But yeah, that's kind of my mindset when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, you know, Anthony, I'm looking forward to seeing where this road takes you, because you're one of the most impressive wrestlers on the roster. I mean, you've called yourself a wrestling god, and yeah, I think you're pretty damn close to it. Because I've seen you do some amazing things in that ring, take some amazing risks, and I'm glad to see that you're still standing and that you're doing your thing, man. And I hope 2020, was it you know, like you said, it was pretty good to you, and that you're pretty fortunate that you had something almost every weekend. But I hope 2021 is bigger and better for you, and not just for you, but for everybody.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm hoping that it is as well, and you know, we can put, you know, struggle and adversity kind of shows the type of person you are, and I think that 2020 was a big hurdle to get over, and hopefully we're closer to the finish line than we are away from it at this point, and we'll all get past it and become better for getting past it.
Yeah. Now, Anthony, I know you're not a big technology guy. I know you would say you would probably get off of it if you didn't wrestle. But where can people, you know, keep up with you on social media if they want to see where you're going to be and how you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I'm on Twitter at Anthony Gangone, Instagram Anthony Gangone _. You can just search Anthony Gangone on Facebook, and I believe that's all I have.
Well, Anthony, you know, I really appreciate you taking out the time and you know, answering some questions, and hope everything is, you know, bright and great for you in 2021, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, and thank you for having me, and thank you for taking the time to let people know and your audience know who I am, and try to go in depth with stuff and doing research. So I do appreciate that, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so guys, this has been Wrestling IQ 101. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wrestling IQ 101. You can listen to episodes like this, past episodes, new episodes, and we'll see you guys pretty soon.